Good morning, friends, and welcome to Wake Up in the Word. Coming to you from Crossville, Tennessee. I apologize for the slow uploads and some of the missing videos. It's just a difficult place for the Wi-Fi signal where we're staying. But listen, we're getting up what we can. Today, join me in John chapter 8. Going to zero in on one of the most important passages in this gospel. So grab a good cup of coffee and join me as we get to John chapter 8, beginning in verse number 30. Now, as you've been following the last few days, it seems like we're just embroiled in controversy with the scribes, the Pharisees, the religious leaders of the day, and that's perhaps who you think is making up the audience. It makes it almost appear as if these are the only people Jesus is conversing with, but that's not the case. Verse 30 makes this plain. Look at it with me. It says, "And as he was saying these things, many believed in him." As a simple statement of truth, you understand that everyone was not walking in the same darkness that the religious leaders were walking in. Many understood Jesus, what he was saying, and had put their faith and trust in him. So, here in the middle of even these most difficult sayings that Jesus is dealing with, and some of the hardest and deepest truths he would ever teach, that many were still believing in him. They were following him. Now, when we get back to this tough audience, though, the ones that keep raising up the difficult questions, we see in verse 31 that Jesus doesn't always even address them. In fact, it says, "Then Jesus said to the Jews who had believed him, 'If you continue in my word, you really are my disciples. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free.'" So, welcome, my friends, to the walk of freedom. The source of truth is Jesus Christ, his word, and you can completely and totally trust in him. When you begin to do that, it's a walk of freedom that will not just today, at the first time you believe in Jesus, but as you go along through life, continually set you free. Because it's amazing how many people walk in darkness, sometimes believing lies, believing fables, and it gets them in more and more trouble, deceives them at a depth because as you continue to believe lies, it digs a deeper hole from which you've got to somehow be able to get yourself out of. The deeper the hole gets, the more difficult it is for you to come to the knowledge of the truth as you keep believing lies. In fact, as Paul talked about the end times, he said that they would, because they had rejected Jesus, refused to believe in Jesus, they would believe the lie. Apparently, there's one big one at the bottom of that pit upon which all the others are built, and if you swallow it, you're doomed to destruction. And so it is that Jesus is giving you the opposite picture. I'll set you free, beginning with the most basic, simple truth. Put your faith, your belief, your trust in Jesus Christ. He is God in the flesh, the Word made flesh to dwell among us, the one who is coming not just to be with us to teach us, but to shed his precious blood so that we can be saved. So here is the ultimate freedom in life, the freedom that comes from knowing Jesus. You get to build the other truths of his word on top of that key essential belief. Now look how they respond. They respond actually with a lie. Verse 33. "We are descendants of Abraham," they answered him, "and we have never been enslaved to anyone. How can you say you will become free?" And we'll answer that question tomorrow, see how Jesus answered it, and we get into this whole Abrahamic descendancy. But look at what they began with. They began with a lie. They began with a lie that somehow maybe they had swallowed or just didn't even understand the meaning of words. I mean, we're descendants of Abraham. We've never been enslaved to anyone. Now, listen, think about that for just a minute. The whole purpose of the Passover feast was to recognize how they had been set free from a slavery because they were enslaved in Egypt during different times of the judges, for example, and the kings. There are times when outside countries, outside kings had conquered them and enslaved them. The Babylonian exile was in itself slavery, as they had been conquered as a nation, Jerusalem shattered, the temple torn down, and many of the people hauled in slavery off to the Babylonian Empire. That's why you get this picture, much of the Old Testament, written by some of those who were enslaved and those who were in captivity during that time. And at the time they make this statement, they do not even have a Jewish country. It's been taken over by the Romans. And the Romans can basically, at any given time, make you do whatever they want to do. You're living in a country that is enslaved. So, in the midst of all this, the religious leaders are somehow wandering around in their own private little world, a world, perhaps a mental utopia that they are walking in, built along their own little religious principles that have turned into something that looks more like a cult than that which God passed down to Moses in the beginning. Friends, it's not easy to get there. But when you keep building one lie on top of another lie, then ultimately you can land in a place that's mysterious and as strange as any new video game you got for Christmas in that virtual world that you're playing in. Friends, come back to reality. The truth is in Jesus and in His Word. Trust in Him, and I promise He will set you free. Well, God bless you, my friends. Have a great day in Him. We'll see you again right here tomorrow as we wake up in God's precious, holy Word.